this means more than we think. The San Antonio Spurs, 16-15, above 500, face off against the 16-14 Minnesota Timberwolves tonight, and there is a lot on the line. This game is important, but even more important than you guys think, or might think, I should say. And we're going to break that down here on Spurs Digest with your host, Keenan Warner. We appreciate all of you guys. Obviously, it's been Christmas time, so we haven't been, the last couple days, we hadn't had anything out. Brian did a great job of recapping the Christmas Day games. Obviously, we didn't talk about the Brooklyn Nets game, but hey, we'll kind of touch upon that as we do here. But if you haven't yet, take a spur of the moment to get every Spurs moment moving forward, and let's get right underway. It's Spurs Timberwolves coming off of the win against the Brooklyn Nets, a game in which scored 11 points in the first quarter, and then after that we went on a big run and then kind of didn't look back from that moment. Obviously coming off two very emotional losses. You're 15-13, you start the road trip, you go against the Philadelphia 76ers, you have the Sixers who Embiid gets ejected from that game. You're like, okay, we're in a great opportunity. They battle back, and then it just comes down to late turnovers, Tyrese Maxey doing what Tyrese Maxey does, being one of the 20 best players in the NBA right now. Obviously, there was no Jared McCain, so you didn't get the McCain-Castle matchup, which bodes well for Castle's Rookie of the Year campaign. He looks like he could be, if not should be, the favorite for that. And then you obviously get the Christmas Day game, 12 o'clock, arguably the best game of the day. Wemby 42-18. You've got Mikal Bridges trying to look like prime MJ with his mid-range bag that he was getting into late fourth quarter. He was 6-8 from three, I believe ended with 41 points. The Knicks do end up with a W, unfortunately. So two very close losses for the San Antonio Spurs, but they do bounce back and get a win, and this would be a phenomenal spot to get a win against the Timberwolves. A Timberwolves team that has been kind of average. On Friday, you had Victor Wembanyama. He led the way with 19 and 11, had 11 of that in the third quarter. Champagnie had 18, Sochan had 12 and 14 rebounds. Obviously, as I had said, the 11-point first quarter went on a 16-2 run in the second and then tied the game at 41.5 and then just really never looked back because they are clearly a better team than the Brooklyn Nets. Obviously, there was that Wemby concussion. He got hit. As he said, it was not a bad move, cheap or whatever. He just jumped, and I happened to be hovering over him and just took full force of the jump in my chin like an uppercut. And that's, unfortunately, that is one of the downfalls to being 7'4", 7'5", is you tower over everybody. But obviously all of these guys are NBA athletes, they're athletic. When they jump, if you're going to look over to block so you don't have to jump kind of with them, you can time it properly. That's going to happen every now and again. No harm, no foul there. San Antonio acting coach, interim Mitch, favored the small ball lineup. That's been interesting to see over the past two games. He said himself, there are a lot of guys that can switch and be versatile on defense and then play fast offensively. Those 9 guys have earned all minutes, I think, in their own right. Or those 9 guys have all earned minutes, I think, in their own right. And we don't want to overreact, good or bad, once we've gotten healthy and we're trying to figure some things out. Of course, because you're still integrating the fact that you have Vassell and Sochan, like they're back, and obviously they've played multiple games, so it's not like they're in a situation where it's like, oh, we don't get a rotation. But this is the first time this year where they've had a true healthy roster, and again, a true healthy roster where the injury report doesn't have names on it. It is nice to continue to see this, but it was not like this for the first 25, 30 games of the season. Now that we're into this, getting into 16-15, 31 games in. From this 27 game on, they've been really dealing with no injuries. So now it's trying to figure out a rotation, something you would do in late October, early November. You've got to do a little bit later, which is why the Spurs being a 500 team or roughly around there with missing all of these guys is something that is phenomenal and something that is going to help them move forward, because you have a team like the Warriors. They got a win last night, but they're falling. Devin Booker being out for the Phoenix Suns, that's hurt them. They're technically out of the playoffs right now. We're going to get into that here in just a moment. But San Antonio Spurs versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. Really what we're here for. This is going to be the third time they're playing this season. The first one, the Spurs, happened on November 2nd. I believe it was Sochan's last fully healthy game, if not his second to last fully healthy game. They got a W out of it. They held Ant in check that game. He had 21 on rather efficient shooting, but he didn't really do anything that he could do because of Anthony Edwards. It was really a team victory. You had Keldon Johnson, he had 25, Chris Paul 15 and 13, Wemby had 17, Harrison Barnes had 14, Sochan had 19 and 10. This was at the point where some fans were saying that Sochan might just be looking a little better than Wemby. Obviously, Wemby's their star. Obviously, he is the best player on the team. He is a top 10 player in this game today. That is something that I am going to continue to say until hopefully it sticks with everybody. He is top 10 in the league today. It's bar none at this point. So, they got the win the first time out. The second time out, though, they did lose to the Minnesota Timberwolves here, 106-92. It was a 14-point loss. This game, Ant had 26. He was much more efficient, and he was much more of a problem in this game. The Spurs did what they love to do, and they don't come out in the first quarter and play aggressive, tenacious, hard, and they get down. Obviously, they did that the other night. It's really just about the teams that you're playing, and when you're playing against these good teams, you can't do that. You can't do that at all because it's very difficult to make a comeback. We have done it multiple times this season, i.e. the Warriors game, a good team. Obviously, there with a superstar in Steph Curry. We come back, we get a win there. We've done it multiple times, but just continuing to do that, that is the worst aspect of this roster, is how we start games. How we start games is the worst aspect of this roster. But in this game, Wemby had 20 points, he had 12 rebounds, he had 7 blocks. We had Jeremy Sochan for this one. He had 17 and 15. This is one of his first games back. Vassell was still coming off the bench, 0 of 6 from 3. Stephon Castle was 1 of 8, and he is a guy that I want to highlight here right now. So, the Spurs and Timberwolves, they're pretty even across the board. Points-wise, Spurs average 2 more a game. Rebounds-wise, 2 more a game. Assists-wise, 3 more a game. More steals for the Timberwolves, more blocks. Of course, they have Wemby. You're going to have more blocks than pretty much the entire league. Shooting about the same from the floor. The Timberwolves are shooting a little bit better from 3 and about the same from the line. Both two good three-point or free throw shooting teams. But, real quick, before we get into a couple other things here. Stephon Castle. This is going to be a U game. This will be a U game. I understand this year you are 11.2, 2.6, 3.7. You have been up and down this year, gone through what rookies do. Some games you've been good, some games you've been bad. Offensively, you have been inconsistent as we expected. 27% from 3. We figured you would stay around that. 38% from the floor. Makes sense because you're kind of learning the physicality of the NBA. But defensively, you have been as advertised, which is a menace, aggressive, tenacious, and very good. We are going to need you. You're 6'6", you have long arms, you are athletically able to keep up with Anthony Edwards. This guy right here is going to be the key to holding Anthony Edwards in check. If we can hold Anthony Edwards in check, we have a good chance of winning this game in Minnesota, which is also going to be tough. Chris Finch is a good coach. Obviously, they're still trying to figure out the Julius Randle, Anthony Edwards, how do we work together kind of thing. Rudy Gobert is there, but obviously he is not really an offensive worry. He's more of a defensive worry, getting into the paint and everything. But Wemby should be able to take him out. It'll be interesting to see how they match that up. Probably have Wemby. They'll probably have Gobert on Sochan, obviously, because Sochan's not really a shooter. So shooting from Sochan, if he can hit 3 threes like he did against the Knicks, if he can have a game like that where you have to actually respect him a little bit to get Rudy Gobert away from the basket a bit, that's going to help a lot for the San Antonio Spurs tonight. But Stephon Castle, there is not many guys in this league that can match Anthony Edwards athletically. Stephon Castle can, and he is a defensive menace. He can match up with Anthony Edwards, and that's the thing about Stephon Castle, is you have a guy who is phenomenal, and you have a guy who is defensively ready for the challenge, even though he is young. And then Wemby, obviously, when you have a superstar on one side, you need your superstar to play well. It just has to happen. Obviously, this is a team game. You need to make sure that within the team game, you're doing that. And Wemby never cheats the game. He never cheats his teammates. He loves his teammates. He loves playing the game the right way, and he always has. But in these kind of games, you go to New York, MSG, Christmas Day. You need to go have yourself 42 and 18 to give yourself a chance to win, especially even though their superstar and Brunson didn't. Mikal Bridges has a 40-point game himself. You need to have your star performances on those type of games. This is another one on the road. You need a star performance. 25 and 10 this year, 4 assists, 4 blocks, 1 steal. Shooting 48% from the floor, 36 from 3. I'd like to see him get into the paint a little bit more. He's just so efficient around there, obviously being so tall. But he is another guy who is going to have himself a ball game today. But that is really without being said. It's Victor Wembanyama. Of course, he's going to need to have himself a ball game. But to win this game, why is it so important? It's because of this. This is the standings in the Western Conference. You have got the San Antonio Spurs sitting at 9th. You've got the Timberwolves sitting at 8th. A win flips that. Timberwolves go to 16 and 15. We go to 17 and 15. And then we're right behind the Los Angeles Lakers, who are 17 and 13. And they have been up and down a little bit. Obviously, they've gotten a couple wins here of late. But you have them. You have a Clippers team who could continue to fall. Obviously, we don't know how the Rockets are going to... The Rockets are a good team. Don't get me wrong. They are a very good team. It's just, how consistently can you guys really stay up into that 3rd, 4th? All the losses from the loss column, from the Grizzlies down to the Warriors, down to even the Suns, 6 games. That is not many games. You go on a little bit of a run here, you can creep your way up there. Dallas is going to be without, Luka Doncic for a month after his injury on Christmas Day. They're going to be vulnerable and able to slip. Denver, obviously, they don't have the same kind of team. They have just a supernova in Jokic, but otherwise they're not the same team. A lot of these teams can got above us. A win here moving into that 8th spot, we have a chance realistically to get ourselves within a top 6 seed in the conference easy and avoid the play-in, which would be phenomenal. I've said 44 and 38, 8 seed play-in team. That's what I thought this whole entire season could be. They could be even better than that because they've been better than advertised and better than I thought they were going to be with their injuries. But coming up here, you have yourself, when you're in a road stand, you lost to the Sixers, you lost to the Knicks, you beat the Nets, you beat the Timberwolves, you come out of this home stand and you are 2-2, road trip and you are 2-2 going into your next home game. That is going to bode well. You still stay 2 games above 500, which you went into the road trip with, and you've played very close games, showing that you can compete with the top teams in the Eastern Conference, and this would be competing with the top teams in the Western Conference. And then, last but not least, the month of January is a brutal schedule. We've got the Clippers. That's going to be a tough game. They've been playing teams tough, and they're a well-coached roster. Back-to-back games against the Nuggets and Jokic. You get the Bulls, fine, but then you get a Bucks team that's been rolling. You get back-to-back games against the Lakers. That's going to be tough. You get back-to-back games against the Grizzlies. They've been rolling. You get a Heat team, which we'll have to see who's there then at that point. Obviously, Jimmy Butler, we'll see if he's playing or not for them, if he's injured, not injured, traded, not traded, whatnot. That's a sneaky game, especially because it's in Miami. The Indiana Pacers team, that's going to be a tough game because they can get out and run. But we can beat the Pacers. And back-to-back games against the Pacers. You see the Clippers again, and you see the Bucks again. That's the month of January. I don't know what these schedule makers decided to do, but that's the month of January. Getting a win here and getting into the new year on a little bit of a winning streak there, and then you try to play the Clippers in a very tough game that can help you propel in the standings. This next month is going to tell us a lot because they're playing a lot of teams that are right above us. The Lakers right above. The Nuggets right above. The Grizzlies are a little bit above. Obviously, the Clippers right above. There are a lot of teams that are right there, and this for the San Antonio Spurs is going to be big. In staying above 500, 2 games above 500 rather than being at 500 changes the entire complexity of this next month. This game is bigger than just what it is on the matchup where the Timberwolves are a good team. But Stephon Castle, we need a game out of you tonight. Victor Wembanyama, we need you to match the star-studded presence of Anthony Edwards. Castle's going to do his best to stymie that, but of course he is a superstar for a reason. He'll score on whoever he wants to. And the Spurs need to get a win, and they're going to get a win on the road tonight to get themselves to 17-15, move themselves up to the 8th seed, and then for the month of January prepare themselves to try to sneak in to getting a top 6 seed in the Western Conference. Let me know what you guys think, though, on this game with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Do you believe the Spurs can get a W tonight, or do you think that this game is going to be one where the Spurs could fall? Let me know in the comments there. This has been Spurs Digest with your host, Keenan Warner. I appreciate all of you guys, and I'll be seeing all of you guys very soon.